Howdy y'all. In this video today, we're going to go over a couple things on my Poop Tip Tuesday. We'll talk about a real case study. I'm going to try something new. I want to kind of get your thoughts on a real patient that I took care of in terms of my approach to helping out with their gut issues. Number two, we'll talk about my thoughts on artificial sweetener. I got this question on my email list and we'll answer that. Number three, we'll talk about my approach to dealing with bloating, how to help out with bloating, and what I recommend because I feel like you need a systematic approach. And number four, we will talk about why you are constipated. A lot of people ask me, hey, Dr. Islam, I am constipated. What's the dealie, yo? Well, in this video, we'll talk about what exactly that dealie actually is. So for those guys who are joining today, my name is Dr. Islam, and yes, I'm an actual poop doctor. My passion is to give you tips and tricks to help out with your gut health. A couple things I need from you guys. Number one, if you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button. Like, share, and subscribe. The more you interact with me, the more it shows all the social media giants that we are doing something live and great. Number two, if you have a question for me that you want me to answer live, comment down below. Let me know. I'll try and see if I can get to it and answer that question. I will not answer your personal medical conditions, even if you are my patient. I don't want to lose my license, and I don't certainly want to make that a problem. So I may answer in a general question, but not a specific question about your particular condition. And number three, if you are not comfortable writing or putting your question down below, sign up for my weekly newsletter. I'll put a link down below where you can email me a question, because today's question comes back from one of today's questions comes from a patient who contacted me. Also, let me know in the comments if you're watching live or on the replay. Sean, it is good seeing you. Thank you for watching. B is good seeing you. And Carol's in the house. Yes, Carol. I like that enthusiasm. You are in the house as well as I am. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. So Tuesdays for me are great because I usually take the morning off. This morning I had the whole morning off, and so usually that morning I'll take my kids to breakfast. We'll go someplace. We'll go eat. I'll drop them off. I'll go for a nice quick run. I'm not a big runner, but I have found that actually having the right shoes makes a difference when it comes to running. So I started doing that on Tuesday mornings. And on Tuesday, I kind of do a lot of other things I have going on inside my life. I have a lot of other projects that I'm working on. And so I usually have that time to take off. I have found it that for me, taking off half of a day during the work week is an effective way for me to recharge, to get back together, to kind of do what I need to do. Because for me and my family, weekends are not a time for me to do my own thing because we have kids. We have kid activities. My kids are in different sports, different events. I'm moving them around. I have to take care of my family. And so weekends are spent for me to do other things. And it can be, for me, sometimes a little bit more exhausting, more tired. So I have found that taking maybe a half day during the week that I can to allow me to kind of do my own thing and to rest and recuperate. I know I'm losing by doing that in terms of my professional life, less patients, less procedures, less things to do with my professional life, but for me, this sacrifice is well worth it. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think. Have you guys done something like that to hopefully help you manage what is going on during the day? So let's talk about really quick a real patient case I want to tell you, because this case goes over what a patient has and the workup that happened before they came to see me and what I can do to help out. So this is roughly a 23-year-old female who's been having a lot of gut issues, bloating, dissension, diarrhea, even to the point where she's getting up in the middle of the night and having some weight loss as well. She was one that's very, very hesitant about trying to go into Western medicine. She didn't want to be just placed on a pill and be shoved out the door and say, hey, this is done. So she went down a more natural approach. She saw multiple different doctors, including functional medicine doctors, who did a workup. They did some stool testing, did some testing called a GI MAPS test, did other testing for her, which she had to pay out of pocket for, ended up being quite a bit of money, but she got some information, roughly about 30 sheets of paper, about some of the results of that test. This functional medicine doctor told her about different things she can try different diets, try being on a keto diet, try a paleo diet, try to avoid carbohydrates, try these supplements, which she had to pay out of pocket for, very expensive. She had some some help. It helped out a little bit, but not to the point where she was fully satisfied with what was going on. She's still having pretty bad diarrhea, still having bloating as well, still having a lot of gut issues. And she was frustrated because she didn't want to go down the kind of the Western medicine path, but at the same time, she went down a more natural path. She paid a lot of money out of pocket for a lot of different tests, tried different supplements, tried different diets, and didn't get the response that she wanted. So she decided to see me and see what my approach is. So I see these patients a lot. So when I saw her, I heard her story, I did my examination. The first thing I realized is that she's having to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. It's waking her up. So for us in the GI world, those of us who are a trained GI doctor, this for us is a warning sign that something else is going on there. And I didn't want her to have to undergo some crazy different tests that would not help her. I didn't want her to have to pay out of pocket, certainly, for tests that I feel like are not going to make a difference in the care. So I did what I typically do for my patients. I did some really limited stool testing, because stool testing for the vast majority of our patients doesn't really help out with helping us to figure out what's going on with chronic diarrhea. Sometimes I check for some parasites to make sure nothing else is going on there. But I did what I consider the gold standard for us to find out what's going on, which is taking a look with both an upper endoscopy and a colonoscopy. What these tests are, we put you to sleep, use a very small camera. I take a look inside the upper GI tract to see if I can find any reason in the upper GI tract for some of her gut issues. I also did a colonoscopy as well, which on the colonoscopy, it looked to be completely normal. I didn't see anything on the actual scope itself, but I did take biopsies to find out exactly what's going on. She came to see me about a week later, and on her results that we did for her, we found that she actually had a condition called microscopic colitis, in which there was underlying inflammation inside the colon that we could not see with the scope, but we can see with biopsies as well. And this is a condition in which you have chronic watery diarrhea to the point where it can be debilitating for your life. And this is a colitis that you cannot see on different stool testing, and you cannot see on any imaging. And also on the upper endoscopy as well, she actually had biopsies that we took from her small intestine, which showed she had evidence of celiac disease as well. So she had two conditions that were causing her some really bad gut issues. First thing I did, I put her on a gluten-free diet. Not because it's the fad or because I thought that this may be kind of the new thing, but because she actually had a condition in which a gluten-free diet would help. And number two, I put her on an anti-inflammatory medication to help suppress what's going on in the colon. But I also knew that with all the other things that she was put on in the past, different supplements, different antibiotics, that her gut microbiome was out of whack. She had dysbiosis, changed in her gut bacteria, changed in her gut flora. So after we put her on the treatment, when she got better, just like that, literally in 24 to 48 hours, then I started a long-term plan to see if we can get her gut back together again, get her healed, and get her taken care of by introducing more plants, more variety, more holistic food, so she doesn't have to have such a restricted diet and be scared of what she's eating. We got her off her meds, kept her on the gluten-free diet, added more plants and more natural approaches to help out with her gut, and she seemed to do so much better. I've seen her 6 months later. Her symptoms have gone away. So she is doing very well when it comes to her particular disease. And so I bring up this story because, number one, I think I see a lot of patients who are looking for kind of the natural approach, which I completely understand. I am for that. I am the type of doctor that wants to get you off your medications. However, at the same time as well, there is a indication for us to use Western medicine to help out, especially whenever we see what's going on. And the good thing about being a GI trained doctor is I can do both. I can help out with what is going on pathologically and also what we can do naturally. And I don't want to give you tests that just don't make sense, which a lot of these functional medicine doctors will do, because you're paying out of pocket for a whole bunch of papers, which makes no sense whatsoever and doesn't help me out. And so I just want to kind of let you know that these are kind of the things that we try to do whenever we're trying to help out with our patients. Let me know in the comments if you feel like me giving these cases are helpful for you, or if you're getting any benefit from that as well. Alejandro, good seeing you, and I will answer your question. Mary, good seeing you as well. Thank you for watching that. And Margaret, good seeing you as well. So actually, let me go and answer Alejandro's question before I go into my next question, who says, greetings, doctor. After taking 2 months of antibiotics and prednisone, your gut's out of whack. How can I restore my gut? Very good question. So here's my approach for that. When it comes to restoring your gut, we have to try and see, do you have anything else going on inside your GI tract? So for some of my patients, I may actually just take a look myself to see if I know exactly what is going on. For some people, they may have an overgrowth of bad bacteria called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or they may have an overgrowth of bad fungus called small intestinal fungal overgrowth. If they have that, I'll treat that sometimes with giving them some treatments to help out with that. Or if they have any other condition going on, we will fix that as well. Assuming we did that, my approach is to add a very small prebiotic foods and also start to add in very slowly probiotic foods, maybe add some small fiber as well. And by doing that, we're slowly trying to replenish the gut microbiome. In addition to that, I am a big proponent of trying to minimize the things that make your gut microbiome bad and to improve things that make your gut microbiome better. And one thing that has been shown out of all the things that are out there is a diversity of plants can vastly improve your gut microbiome. And so I really try to emphasize as much of a plant-based diet as you can with a lot of variety, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. I want you to eat to fullness and to enjoy your food so you're not always worrying about, will this food cause me to have gut issues? And by doing that, slowly increasing the prebiotics, slowly increasing the probiotics, and helping out with your gut microbiome, this is how I approach helping out with improving kind of what's going on inside your gut. Alejandro, I appreciate that. Margaret, good question. I'm going to answer this really quick. Does acid reflux make you go to the bathroom? Typically not. Now, there are some conditions, very rare conditions, in which you have so much acid being produced that you actually deactivate some of the pancreas enzymes, which can cause severe diarrhea as well. These are very, very, very rare, very rare conditions, so I don't want you to think about this. However, what may be happening in some people is that we know that there is some good evidence that taking medications like acid medications can change your gut microbiome as well, and that can make it more likely for you to have diarrhea as well. So that could be what's going on, but it's hard to know specifically in your particular case. Great question, Margaret. All right, so I'm going to talk about artificial sweeteners. So I actually got this question from somebody who sent me a question on my email list. Her name is Emily, who said, "Hey, Dr. Islam, what are my thoughts on artificial sweeteners?" So very good question. Here's what we know about artificial sweeteners based on the data. So obviously, artificial sweeteners are things to help sweeten up your food so you don't have the calories that sugar typically will bring for you. Now, we know it does a couple things to your gut. Number one, it does change your gut microbiome, and not for the better. You increase your inflammatory bugs by having artificial sweeteners. You decrease some of the good bacteria as well. And by doing that, you actually cause more inflammation to occur. But the second thing that very commonly happens is that a lot of people don't realize that they cannot metabolize or get rid of artificial sweeteners. Very common reason why you may be having bloating, dissension, and diarrhea. And so one of the first things I recommend when somebody has bloating is to cut out those artificial sweeteners, because that may be the root cause. Because what happens is that whenever you can't metabolize or digest those artificial sweeteners, they go in their gut and cause a big explosion to occur of bad bacteria, diarrhea, bloating, and things like that. Now, when you look at the evidence about weight loss, because that's the reason why people want to take artificial sweeteners is to help reduce weight, what we have found is that you actually do not lose weight by taking artificial sweeteners. You actually may increase the weight. A couple different reasons why. Number one is that whenever you have an artificial sweetener, mentally or psychologically, you think, okay, I have something that's kind of diet and it doesn't have sugar. I can maybe cheat and have something that may be more sugary. And when you look at the studies for patients who take artificial sweeteners, that's exactly what they do. Number two is that artificial sweeteners make things super sweet, meaning that you actually don't realize that, hey, this is really sweet. I'm going to eat more and more of this. So you actually are increasing your caloric intake as well. And number three, we don't realize is that whenever you have something sweet, you actually increase your appetite. But what happens when you have artificial sweeteners is that because it has no calories, you are artificially increasing your appetite, but not suppressing it because you're eating no calories with that, versus having something that actually has sugar in it. You actually are increasing your appetite, but suppressing it by having those calories that are associated in that. So instead of taking artificial sweeteners, there are 3 other sweeteners I recommend. Number 1 is date sugar. Number 2 is maple sugar. Number 3 is agave. These are the 3 sweeteners I would recommend as a replacement for artificial sweeteners. So, Margaret, good question. This includes stevia. So stevia is actually considered to be okay. And so I have no problem with stevia whatsoever. Very good question. All right. So another question that patients ask me is, what is my approach to bloating? Come on. You guys know. I know you guys suffer from bloating. Let me know in the comments down below if you or maybe a friend of yours suffers from bloating. And let me know if that's the case. I have a lot of patients who come to see me for bloating. So let me tell you, just medically, we do not have good tests that tell us exactly what the cause is for your bloating. It's very difficult for us to know what the cause is for a lot of our patients. I wish we had one simple test that would tell me, hey, this is the reason why you're bloating. We just don't actually have that particular test for that. So it's very difficult for us. So my approach is that I have to think about this systematically. And there's 3 main reasons why people have bloating. Number 1 is that you may not realize this, but you could be actually ingesting air. Absolutely, you can. So for example, if you suck on a Jolly Rancher, if you chew a lot of gum, if you suck on a straw, if you have carbonated drinks, you actually are increasing the amount of air inside your gut. There's only 2 places where it can go. You can either come up or get your belly big, and you actually eventually will pass it out. So I tell my patients, hey, make sure you don't chew on gum. Don't suck on a straw. Don't suck on Jolly Ranchers. Don't do things like that. Don't be a sloppy eater where you're eating so fast, because that also increases the amount of air. That's way number 1. The second reason why you're having bloating could be certain foods that you're eating as well. So it may not be the fact that you're ingesting air, but the foods is causing a lot of bloating. So for example, dairy, very common reason to have bloating. And people don't realize that they're actually lactose intolerant, or things like fructose. You can't metabolize this for a lot of people. And so having high fructose corn syrup can make you bloated. So we try to work on your food. I try to get a food history, maybe have you see a dietitian as well. And the third reason, which is probably in my opinion, one of the more common reasons, is problems with the motility or contraction of your gut. You may be constipated and not even realize this. You may be going to the bathroom every single day, but still being constipated. And if things are stuck or not moving, it's another very common reason to have bloating. So that's kind of my approach when it comes to bloating. Whenever I have a patient who has bloating, I first tell them, make sure you stop your artificial sweeteners, stop your dairy. First 2 things I recommend: don't use a straw, don't drink carbonated drinks. I'm sorry, but it's just going to be the way it's going to be if you want to help out with your bloating. I'll get a diet history. I'll try to make sure that they're moving their bowels, because the more that you can move your bowels, the easier it's going to be for you to not have to worry about bloating as a long-term issue. Great question. And then lastly, number 4, why are you constipated? You're wondering why? Well, that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm here to answer that question. There are a lot of reasons why people might be constipated. One of the more common reasons is a condition called irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS-C, constipation predominant. This is when you have the inability to really contract things through. It could be a change in your gut microbiome. You typically have some pain and cramping associated with that. The good thing about IBS-C is that number 1, it does not lead to anything bad. It will not lead to cancer, colitis. It will not shorten your life. And number 2, it is very treatable. Now, we have medications that help out with this. Sometimes we can do some more dietary things, but what I tell my patients is that the data behind diet when it comes to constipation is not that good. And so we can try dietary things. There's some smoothies we can try, some foods we can add in, some supplements we can try and do, and it may or may not work, but sometimes we have to go down the medical route, which is perfectly fine, because that's why we're trained in medicine, to help out. The second most common reason why you're constipated is a condition called pelvic floor dysfunction, which literally means that your bottom is so tight that nothing can go through. So medications like Miralax or any type of Dulcolax or stool softeners, they work on the colon to help out with contraction and with water going through. There's no medication that's going to help out with the contraction of your bottom. So no matter how much things are going through, if things get stuck in your bottom, you can't poop. This is a very common reason why people are constipated. So there is testing that we do, that I specifically do for this, to see if you have that. And the treatment for this is very different from the treatment of normal constipation like IBS-C, we actually may have to have you see a pelvic floor therapist, maybe do some massages, do some therapies to help out to relax that bottom. Very common reason why patients are constipated, but also more importantly, very common reason why things like laxatives or prescription meds don't work for our constipated patients. Great question. All right, guys. That's all the questions that I have that I received for this week, and I'll be staying on a little bit longer to answer any questions you guys may have on your on the Facebook Live, the YouTube Live, and the LinkedIn Live as well. What I would appreciate from you guys, if you can do this, number one, like, share, and subscribe to my channels. Number two, share this video because it's the only way the social media giants know what's going on. Number three, if you can sign up for my weekly newsletter, you can post your questions and comments to me as well. But I hope you guys have a happy, healthy day. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys on future videos. See you guys next week. Take care, everyone.